Well, welcome to the coaching clinic today. And for the eagle eyed viewer, you might notice that Angie is not with us today. We have instead a spectacular coach, a good friend of mine, the amazing Jules Wyman. So, welcome to the coaching clinic, Jules. It's great to have you with us.
Spectacular and amazing. No pressure there then, Johnny.
I like to big people up, but I'm really pleased to have you with us because what we're going to talk about today is the trust deficit in the coaching industry and personal development in general. And I've written some stuff on LinkedIn about this recently, and you had commented with some similar experience. I thought, well, you're the perfect person to invite on whilst Angie's away and come and have a chat about this a bit more. So I really appreciate you coming and doing this. Welcome to the coaching clinic with John and Angie.
The show for professional coaches who want to develop their skills and grow their business.
Follow the show on your favorite podcast app.
And join us every Wednesday for new episodes.
And I just want to maybe get a take on what's your view on where trust is at with the coaching and personal development industry at the moment.
I actually think that it's across, I don't think it's just across the coaching industry, but I think that the biggest problem really is, I'm going to say social media, but I mean a much more broader sense than that, is that people are more interested in marketing a message and creating a sense of need and desperation than it is actually being authentic and honest. And I hesitate to use the word authentic because I think it's overused.
Sure.
But I think that people have become just really good at marketing stuff or repurposing other things rather than checking in with what's true and what's valid, and it's very superficial, if that makes sense. And so I think that that's caused quite a it's become more transactional, I think, than it needs to be, or it should be. Don't I use that word as well?
I do think, yeah, it's one of those things. I think ultimately marketers kind of ruin everything. It's just one of those things in life, isn't it? Like when you've got something that's going to sell, people tend to jump on the bandwagon and it will get marketed the hell out of it. But within that, it's always, I think it's always been the case with particularly coaching and personal development of it's always hard to discern what's good over what's empty or not good or just big promises that aren't actually
Mm.
going to deliver. And I think where for us in the coaching world, where the deficit has really come in is just far too many years of people making big promises and
Ooh.
really not being able to deliver that. But then again, also being over marketed, the industry being deluged at times with people and marketing, that people just don't know which way is up anymore.
Yeah, and I love the word discerning, and I think that that's part of the problem is, as in, let's take personal responsibility here. We have to work on our discernment, and we have to learn to navigate that because people are really clever with the marketing messages, and I've fallen foul of it to two very big names, and their marketing message of what they were going to deliver sounded absolutely perfect for where I was at and what I needed at that point, and both of which I turned up to, and I kept saying one of them, it was a big event, and I kept going to the organizer going, "This is what I was told I was gonna get, and we haven't got there yet. Are we gonna get there?" And she, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's gonna happen." So then day 2, "This is what we were told. Are we gonna get there?" And by the end of day 3, I just went straight up to them and said, "I kept asking, it hasn't happened. I'd like my money back." And fair play to them, they didn't quibble. They gave the money back immediately. The other person, it was only afterwards when I came back, and again, I asked for a refund. And I spoke to my business mentor at the time about this, and her immediate reaction was, "Oh my God, if I'd have known that you were even contemplating going to work with that person, I'd have told you my experience." And I think that that's part of the problem, is that it's really hard to say without it being slanderous of, I did not have a great experience with these people. If you're gonna do it, great, but just be mindful. They are very good at putting marketing messages out there that go, "This person got this result," but actually and I understand why they don't say, "Well, this person didn't get this result." And
Sure.
I think that that's where the discernment has got to come in for ourselves, and by interviewing them personally, or really looking at how it is that they show up, rather than the thing that they're saying that they're going to give you. So I think that our own discernment is an important thing that I don't think we do enough. I know that you're a big fan of critical thinking yourself, but I think that
Yes.
it,
But that only gets you so far. It doesn't immunize you against bad
no,
decisions
no, not at
or
all. Not
anything
at
like
all. But
that.
for me, I don't think they're bad decisions, because they are an opportunity to insight and learn something. Because I think very often the marketing messages is, it's selling us something that we think we need, but actually, is it really that we're looking for? And I think because they sell this quick fix, or do this one thing and it's going to be a forever solution, I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, and whilst there's a degree of probably the only legal phrase I still remember from studying law was in Latin, at least, was caveat emptor, buyer beware. That's always going to be the case. Like you never really know what you're going to get until you get it, and there is a level of, yeah, sure, there's a bit of research you could do. We do often check reviews more than we used to before, but you do look for, particularly now, social proof. And because people are able to curate their own social proof to a great degree, you're only going to get one side of the picture.
Mm.
Very few people are going to have people posting, or they're not going to post testimonials from people who had the worst time or absolutely hated them. But I think maybe they should, and I'll tell you why, and at least to a degree. Because yesterday I was looking at a book. I think, that looks like it could be an interesting book. I was checking out the author, and I'm not sure about this. And I looked at the reviews. Oh, let's check out the reviews, and they were all 5-star reviews. There was nothing other than 5-star reviews, and I was like, I don't know. Somebody must not have liked this book. How can it only be all 5-star reviews? And it actually damaged I decided not to
That's
add the book,
interesting.
because, and this is just the book we're talking about, but I decided not to get it simply because I did not trust that those were all legitimate reviews, and that not one person didn't like the book. So I think it
But
damages.
I think that that's an important part as well of it, though, is that we need to understand what we mean by trust. I mean, yes, there's going to be some definitions. I love Rachel Boatsman's statement around that. She defines trust as a confident relationship with the unknown, and I think that's a really helpful thing, is to take time to understand, what does trust look like for you? What's the outcome that you're looking for? Forget what they're kind of forget what's being promised, but really look at that, because if we need if are we saying trust, but do we really mean honesty? Are
Mhm.
people being really, is that more of what we're looking for? I know, I was about 6 or 7 months ago now, I had somebody reach out for coaching, and I had a conversation with them, and because I never say, "Yes, here you go, book in and pay me now." I have the initial conversation, but I don't do the whole sell and close at the end of a call now that I used to do. I basically give all the information and go away and think about it. If it's the right thing for you, then you'll come back. And if it's not, that's absolutely fine too. And I will tell people that up front. And this particular person, I said, coaching's not right for you right now. I can point you to this, this, and this. I don't know which is going to be right for you, but it's certainly not coaching with me right now. It might be another coach, and they were shocked that I was that honest. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to take somebody's time and money just for the sake of putting you on my books.
Yeah.
And I think trust and honesty go hand in hand. That's what I hear you say anyway.
Yeah, there's two. I guess there's two elements to this, and I think one element is what you're in business for. What are you all about? And I think there is. I've never really trusted in the personal development business the people who seem to really be in it for the money more than anything else.
Mhm.
And so this is why, Angie hates me saying this, because it throws the cat among the pigeons. But this is why I've never been a Tony Robbins fan, because I always feel like, maybe it's not true for him, but I've always felt like he seems to care more about the money than anything else. He's like me, and so the guys who are kind of up there in that space, I've always had a level of distrustful because I don't see the motivations as being not necessarily pure, but um, I don't feel I can relate to that. Whereas the people who seem to really care about just about transformation and being accessible and um, relatable on the smaller levels have been always been much more appealing to me. And yet people always seem to push more towards the path of bigger and bigger being better. And I think throughout my time in coaching and personal development, I've come to believe that that is not so much the case. That bigger is not always better.
You and I have got that behind it, the scenes experience from a number of different high level personal development events, and know the KPIs that are there, the key performance indicators that are there if you're at the enrollments table, or if you're at,
Sure.
in the crew or the room. And you and I both know the strategies that have been taught, encouraged, shared. And I'm not a fan of that. I was with somebody at an event, not one of the ones that we used to do. And they were being encouraged to put their house on, remortgage their house, in order to be able. I was on the public side, but I could hear
Yeah.
this. Um, and I just don't believe that is, I don't believe that's ethical. I get the whole philosophy behind it. I get the psychology and the potential manipulation behind it, but you don't know the full story of how and why somebody is in that financial situation, and you need the time to get to understand why they're looking for that quick fix. If I invest this, then that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem with this industry. Is it sounds like it's offering a quick fix or a silver bullet, um, or a pass that's going to change things overnight. And that's simply not my experience. I've been a professional coach for more than 20 years, believe it or not. And I've been doing various forms of personal development and spiritual development for probably close to 30. And I know for at least 50% of that, I was looking for the quick fix. I was looking for the shortcut, the silver bullet, whatever you want to call it. And it took me a long time to realize that that's not how it works.
Yeah. Change and transformation for the most part are gradual. And I think that that is maybe the benefit of experience, because I would say that as well. It's like I like you earlier days, I wanted fast fixes, I wanted solutions now, and they never, I say they never really came. There were certainly moments of big transformation for me, but that those sort of big leaps in transformation are not they're not generally what was it the word I'm looking for, they're not something you can keep consistency with. And that level of transformation, you just can't keep having huge leaps of transformation all the time. But ongoing growth and transformation is very manageable. It's just less noticeable, and it's more adaptable. You also I'd love to come away from this event not recognizing myself being someone completely different and amazing. Well, you might just get that, but then 2 weeks later, when you've gone back to your life, most of the time you'll end up back exactly where you were before you ever went there. So this is the thing. Generally, it's unsustainable, but people are buying into the big promises, and it is this thing of like, this is where people get burned. I think of sometimes even end up. I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of money on trainings.
Oh yes,
A lot, a
I
lot.
daren't go back and actually look and mount it up as to how much. But yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And some of that has been money well spent. Maybe to agree, all of it has. I mean, like, even the ones where I didn't get what I hoped I would, there's been something to take away from it.
Well, I
you know,
always ask for a refund, you see, so that. But to be fair, it was only those two, because they were, I think the one was 3 days, one was 4 days, and it was just very obvious that what I had been sold wasn't on offer. So if what I'd been sold was on offer, and I just wasn't getting the results that I thought I would, I probably wouldn't have asked for a refund.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I know you can't. This perhaps is one of the challenges as well. Like we're talking about we can happily talk about the people that, the events we love and the people we trust, and we can name names when it comes to that. But when it comes to the ones that we didn't, or the ones where we asked for our money back, we're reluctant to do so, for obvious reasons as well, because maybe other people are having different positive experiences with that. Maybe, word gets out, bad mouthing things, even if your experience is legitimate, doesn't feel like the right thing to do. And yet, because we do tend to not name the names, especially in
Mm.
these sort of public forums like podcasts, people don't know who the people are that they probably should steer clear of. We can only really give them the sort of guidelines of, these are the things that perhaps I wouldn't trust or would question, or these are maybe some best practices to help you with the discernment element here. But even then, you're not going to be 100% protected, because ultimately you have got people out there who are making big promises and just want to take your money, and you'll go to a big event and it ends up being marketing for the next more expensive event that they want to sell you into,
Yeah.
or they're trying to pull you into something that feels like it might be a religious cult. It's like, these experiences are real and do happen to people, and you're like, well, how do you know who you should be staying away from, or what's the right point to say, I'm getting out of here, or I'm getting my money back? It's tougher, and it shouldn't take it shouldn't have to take us 15-20 years in the industry to be able to figure that out,
No, but
ideally.
I think that that is part of the problem. I mean, I'm very cautious about naming the people that I'm referring to, but I do think a big part of it comes back to, if we genuinely trusted ourselves, not to make the right decision, but we trusted ourselves. We trusted that little. I'll often refer to it as like a niggle, or just something that's just. So the second person that I'm thinking of, that's as far as I will go. Um, I think because I even messaged him a number of times and saying, this is the sort of thing that I'm looking for. Will this course offer me? And his replies, if I'm honest with myself, I'm just as complicit, because I chose to ignore that. They weren't. There was something that was off.
Mm.
That if I genuinely had listened to that niggle, then I shouldn't have booked it. I shouldn't have gone. So I think that if we knew our own trust, if we valued that ourselves, then I think we would know, we would get that. The discernment would be much easier on the flip side. And I think that if we are also very honest with our agenda, I'm looking for a quick fix. A client I finished with last week, when we first started working together, he was looking for guarantees. And I kept saying to him, I cannot make any guarantees. I can only say what I will do to a certain degree in a coaching session, because I don't know. I don't know how they're going to go, or what will unveil itself. I can give you information based on previous experience, but I don't know how you and I are going to be, and also what you do with the information outside of it. And he was really interesting, because he said, I've got from this what I didn't expect and what I would have liked as well. But he also said, I still would have liked that magic, that kind of flick of a switch. And it's like, yeah, but it's not going to happen in that way. And
Right.
I'd said that from the start.
Yeah.
So, I think that I do think personally that we have to be trusting of those little bits of a niggle, that we want to call it intuition, wisdom, the feeling, whatever you want to call it, but to listen to that more and start to trust that more. Not that it's always going to be right, but hearing that information, I think that's key.
Yeah, I do as well. And I'll say this as well. I think, even as a coach, I used to feel a bit bad that I wasn't able to deliver that when
Yeah,
when I saw other people promising that, and I'm thinking, maybe there's something wrong with me as a
yeah.
coach, that my clients are not having that experience, or
But
having.
doesn't that perpetuate that in the industry then, though?
Yeah.
Because then what we do is that, because I see you marketing the unstoppable, or the breakthrough, or the sudden this, that I then start marketing that. And then it perpetuates the very thing that we're saying that is not helpful.
Yeah. Unfortunately so, especially when that's what people then start demanding, is like, What sounds better to you or to anyone, something we're going to have to work on possibly for years, or something that we can fix in an instant.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
which one should I choose? It's not
Give me
not
that
a hard
magic pill. Yeah,
not a
exactly.
hard choice, is it? And yet those instant fixes never are. And this is one of the things I've discovered, even with, I I I don't use much NLP these days, even after having paid a lot of money to learn all of it. Um, but there's only some bits of it I still even find any value in at all. A lot of it, I think, is hype. A lot of it is
Mm.
hype, and a lot of change that people have is hype. And I've seen this from having come from a religious background where people were doing like spiritual healings and stuff like that, to the personal development world where there were similar kind of things going on, in all honesty, that people were ultimately convincing themselves that they were okay. That's what it really came down to. No one was really being healed. They were convincing themselves that they have, or just thought, all right, well, it's all good now. It's fixed because I came on stage and they did some sort of process with me, and now it's resolved. And then think there's something really wrong with them when months later it bubbles up again.
Reverts back. Yeah.
Yeah, because it hasn't really been. I mean, maybe you haven't had to deal with it for a while and you put it out your mind. Great, you had a break from it, but that's what you got. It didn't resolve the issue, because some of these things, they just run a lot deeper, and we can't just erase things from our brain, from our neural pathways. There is no eraser that just says, "All right, that's gone now." It's still there.
But I think that's the challenge, though, isn't it? A lot of what is being quote unquote dealt with is the superficial,
Mm.
and it's not the invitation isn't to be looked deeper. And something that you just said struck me then was in a similar form. So where the guy I'm referring to, when I had paid the money to him and then asked for a refund and then spoke to my business mentor, she'd actually said she'd paid him a 5-figure sum for coaching and one-to-one coaching. And she then said that she'd asked for a refund after session 2 when she realized that she was coaching him and so had got all the money back. And I said, well, why is that not widely out there? Why is that not being said? She said, because most people, when they invest that kind of money, they don't want to look like a fool for having invested that money. And what you just said then suddenly reminded me of that and made me think, oh, yeah, because if I'm on the stage and I'm being used as a demo, as a breakthrough, then I've already bought into wanting that breakthrough. So therefore, I am going to go, yeah, actually, you're right. I do feel lighter, brighter, and whatever it is. So I think that there's so many things that we don't know. Most of us, and I include myself, don't really know how the thinking mind works and all the stuff that's going on in the background. So the subtle manipulations that somebody's doing intentionally or unintentionally are going to be influencing us. So we again, that's where we need to have our spidey senses out a little bit more with, and not making ourselves a bad person if we made a decision to invest that money or go to that course and actually walk away and go, yeah, no, that didn't work. That wasn't what I was looking for.
Mm. You've already mentioned that there was somebody that came to you with wanting guarantees. I'm just wondering, any other sort of incidences or thoughts that have come up for you about where the general lack of trust in the industry maybe has affected you, or where you've noticed that coming up with maybe with your own clients or in your own work.
I think you've already hit on the major points. Some people, it's not that often that I get asked for guarantees. And I think with this gentleman, it's because he knew his boss was invested in it. So he wanted to make sure there was guarantees. But I think that I think it's the confusion with the overload. There's so many different people out there that the market is, who do I actually go to now? Who's really going to help me? And a colleague of mine in York, we talk about this very often because she started a year before me. So she's been around 21 years. I've been doing it 20 years, just over. And we were laughing a few weeks ago about how many quote unquote coaches we've seen come and go over the years, and that there tends to be this pattern. And it's usually, I think, there's a desperation of people, like you were pointing to earlier, of going, oh yeah, yeah, that's where I can make money. And so they call themselves a coach in this, as we're referring to, and then they'll realize that that's not necessarily going to work, and they fall out. So I think that the flood of the market and the confusion of the messages out there, it's why I don't call it a discovery call anymore with people who reach out, because to me, it's still a discovery call, but it's to me, I just want to set up a call. I want to find out where you are, what you're actually looking for from coaching, because I want to discern whether coaching, I believe, is the right way for you, or whether I am the right coach for you. And in that, I will give an insight in a conversation. And I think that that's the only way, whether it doesn't matter whether it's to do with your health or your finances or coaching, is talk to the person and then go with what you genuinely feel. I personally, if I come off a call and someone's like, yeah, you're not the right person for me, I think that's the right answer.
But you know what? What's interesting in this conversation is that when I was working in sales for a training company, um, and I was doing a lot of phone sales. One of these things you were saying about, they were actually the critical elements. This is a conversation to find out if this is even the right thing for you, and if it is, do you need it now? Is now the right time to move forward with it? What's really going on for you? Where are you looking to get to? Why does it matter to you? Um, but yet, what ends up happening, I think, a lot of the times, people do just get focused on make the sales, make the sales, make the sales, and I get that. Is like, businesses need a bottom line, and people need to make money to put food on the table and all that. But at some point, things cross over from sales being service to sales being give me your money. This is a
Yeah,
stick up kind of thing.
yeah.
Almost the point of like, well, people just applying the pressure, layering it on, turning up the pain too far, or maybe even using guilt or other techniques to get people to take action and move forward, and maybe make a decision that isn't actually right for them in the moment. I think when we stay on the side of being ethical operators, we avoid that stuff anyway. When we're not, that we don't have to make the sale. Sure, great if we do, but we don't have to make the sale. It just has to be right. It has to be the right fit for them, the right fit for you. At least the right possibility of us being able to get good results working together. That's what you want to go for. But I think too many people end up just being, well, just make the sale, got to get clients, all of that. I see as well, and maybe you see this too, especially with people who are perhaps a bit newer to the personal development world, of that often they'll have people, and I'll go and see the websites, for example. If people do ask me to go and look at their websites particularly, and they're asking for big sales straight up front. And it's like, well, the first thing is like, oh, come and work with me, buy my coaching program. It's only £5,000, or euros or dollars, whatever you're working in. Well, sure, but who's going to do that? They've just landed on your webpage. They don't know, they may not know anything about you just at the moment, and you're asking them to fork up a bunch of money to come and work with you. Firstly, they don't know even if they're on the right page. They don't know anything about you. They don't know if there's someone you want to work with. You haven't established any kind of relationship with them or any kind of connection at that point. And this is the stuff that takes time. And I think when people try and shortcut all of that, it causes problems as well. It's like, see a lot more focus now on people having the relationship based stuff, like having people wanting to have podcasts because it helps them establish long-term relationships with people in their audiences. Like, I get that. I hear that from people who listen to my shows. But having the books out there that can give you the credibility as well, having the talks and other stuff out there that people can actually see who you are, as well as your testimonials.
Mm.
We need to be able to give that picture, and give people the avenue to being able to have a relationship with us, hopefully not just a parasocial one where it's just like they just know who you are. They feel like they have a relationship with you, but they've never actually spoken to you. But to actually pull them into, well, let's make that an active connection. Someone who I think does that pretty well is a guy called Chris Ducker. I don't know if you know Chris, but generally whether you like, Chris maybe isn't for everyone, but whether you like him or not, when I first reached out to him, when I first reached out to him, I think within 10 or 15 minutes of having sort of responded to something of his, we were having a chat. And then at some point during that chat, I was like, is this really you or is this a bot? Or no, it's really me. I can prove it if you want. And I was like, oh, wow, cool. And I was like, all right. So I felt straight away I actually got to connect with the person and got to have that. And that's so important. But also now more than ever, we want to get some baseline of trust with people to say, all right, can I trust you? Can I actually connect with you and have some relationship? Um, can I talk to you? Can I find out more about you? That it's hard to have that trust. And I think unless we're making sort of very, lower value purchases, with like £47 for this quick program or course or whatever, or download, they're the kind of stuff that you don't really you don't want it to be crap if you're going to spend any money on it, but you could live with it if it ends up not
Mm,
being what you
yeah.
really want. Whereas if you spend 5, 8, 10 or more thousand on a program, it's very much the case of this needs to be able to deliver, whether you do even obviously you have to do the work, you have to put in the time and effort, but it needs to have the capability to deliver the goods. And you need a much higher level of trust with people to get them over the line on those sorts of decisions.
I think there's so much in what you've said. I think one of the things where potentially some of the issues start in relation to this is the initial sales to people who want to be coaches, because it's that I haven't seen any adverts for this for a long period of time, but certainly the ones that I used to see was all around make a 5-figure salary a month. And it was always 20 to 50K that was pitched, or turn over a 6-figure business by doing coaching. So I think that is part of the problem, because that's the upfront thing, rather than be of service. And I don't like the phrase very much because it's an overused phrase. But truly, how can I help? If I'm not the right person for you, I had a lady reach out. She'd met me at a talk I was doing a few months back. We then spoke, and very quickly I knew that what I charge was out of her budget. So I went, well, I've got this option, or I've got this, because she kept saying, I really want to work with you. And I'm like, well, you could do this, or you could do this. And she was like, your membership's perfect. I can afford that. I'm in. That to me was far more valuable. Whether she stays for 2 months, whether she stays for 20 years, that was a more valuable conversation than pushing to get her over the line for the bigger sale, because
Yeah.
that's what was important to me, is having something there to be able to help her. So I think that part of the problem with the high price ticket is that that's what coaches are being sold when they're trained. They're not being trained that in order to be able to do that, you actually need to build relationships. And that then goes back to that point of be available. I'm not talking 24/7 and being on your phone 24/7, but when somebody reaches out, whether it's a comment on social media, whether it's an email, doesn't matter what it is reply, and not with a boring stock answer. Get to know them, because that's how you will build relationships. They may or not work with you, may or not work with you. I don't know about you, but I've certainly had people reach out to work with me that I met 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, but that relationship was established. They've stayed on the periphery of what I do, and when the time is right, they come forward. And I think that relationship is something that is not marketed. It's not spoken about. So I think that's an important part of it as well, because that is where you build that trust. That is where you build that connection with people. Yeah, there's a consistency there with what John is saying, or there's a consistency there with how Jules is showing up. So therefore, actually, that is the right person for me, rather than it just being a hype of, woohoo, here we go. This is what I can offer you.
Yeah. No, I think part of the problem as well is that there's a lot of people out there very confidently making claims about what they can do or what they can offer you. But confidence does not equal necessarily competence. Sometimes we can always put on an air of confidence about ourselves and go forward and be like brave and bold and confident in a presentation, and maybe even convince people with that. But ultimately, the real confidence runs a lot deeper. Now, you have some some expertise in confidence, right? And I just a little bit. So, since this is one of this is a big area for you. What what what's really what do you look for? What do we look at as real confidence here? If we're looking for like not sort of brash, big claim confidence, but real confidence, what do you see that as?
I don't know if you know this, Johnny, but the root derivation of the word confidence is the Latin confidere, which literally means with trust. So it perfectly ties into this conversation. And competence is an external thing. It's about those abilities, the experience, the skills, those kind of things that somebody else can acknowledge. But true confidence is about that self-trust. It is about it's not one of my favorite quotes is by Pete McIntyre, which is confidence isn't about always being right. It's about not fearing to be wrong. So the confidence is about having a go for me. So I think that and I think this is where people get caught up because and actually, again, regardless of the industry, they get caught up with the I was on a call recently and they called it procrastalearning. So I have stolen that from somebody else, which is that continual, I need to get the next qualification. I need to go
Yeah.
on the next course. I need to go on the next course. And I thought it was such a brilliant phrase to recognize that there's this perception that if I get more competence, then I'm going to feel more confident, rather than recognizing that you've got to do stuff to have the learning, which means you've got to fall over, you've got to muffle your words, you've got to sound like an absolute idiot in order to learn how to do something. That's when you go, okay, well, I can learn from that in order then to be able to use it differently in the future. And I think that the misunderstanding of what confidence is for many, many people is that it is about being loud and it is about knowing all the answers. It is about being bold and being the person on the stage. And actually, some of the handful of truly confident people that I know quite happily sit in the corner and not say anything in a group of people. Not because they have to, not because they're introverts. They'll speak when they've got something of contribution. But aside from that, they don't have to speak for the sake of speaking. So I think that there's something about an assuredness within
Mm.
ourselves. And again, all of these things, assuredness, trust, confidence, they all intrinsically link. And when we engage with that, when we know those for ourselves internally, we then do make different decisions externally.
Yeah. My dad always, I've had it instilled in me. My dad has always said to me, don't speak unless you've got something worth saying. And I've always carried that as a philosophy in life. I I don't just want to speak and fill the air. I want to speak when I have something that's worth saying. So I love what you said there. I know we're going a bit over the time we agreed, so I appreciate your generosity with sharing all this, because it's been such an interesting conversation. And I think even stuff was coming up for me there about, oh, I think there's another conversation to be had here about part of the issue being us not doing what we need to do to always get the return on the investments we make in our own development and growth as well. Is it always like buy the next program? That's the answer. The next program, whatever else. That's certainly something we want to come back on the show and take a look at some point.
Well, dare I
Let's
mention Tony Robbins? But Tony Robbins, on one of his courses once, it really struck me that he was waving a self-help book. So this would have been close to 20 years ago, right at the beginning of my coaching career. And he said, "How many of you have read this book?" And I would say and it was one of his, and I would say about 90% of the room raised his hands. And he went, "All right, now be honest. How many of you read it to cover to cover?" And a huge percentage dropped their hands. And he said, and out of you that have got your hands up, how many of you genuinely, be honest, actually applied what was in the book? And the number of hands that went down, and he said, look, it's roughly about 3% of people that will read a book from cover to cover and do what's being suggested in there.
yeah.
And I think that that's key, is that we don't, as coaches, we need to do that. But other people need to be doing that as well. There's no point in doing that procrastalearning to gain the next thing if you're not actually applying any of it.
100%. I know I've been guilty of that many times as
Oh,
well.
me
And
too.
something I definitely try to avoid. Jules, it would be wrong of us to wrap up the episode without mentioning that you do have a book and a podcast for those who are thinking that Jules is great. Let's hear more from Jules. So tell us a little bit about that before we finish up for today.
So the book is going to be launched very soon. It's what's over my right shoulder. It's called Feel Good More Often, and it's a journal, and it's taken from the reflections that I write every single week. So I've taken those reflections and I've created a journal, so you can do one of those a week and take exactly what we're saying, actually put some effort in process with that. And what was lovely, my editor, when I said to her, be honest with me, is this worth actually taking forward? And she said, Jules, all I've done is edit it and I've made changes in my life. And I was like, I think that's a very good, that means that there's
That is
something
good.
within this. That's a good nugget. And then so that will be out in the next couple of weeks. And then the Coming to Your Senses podcast is just over 18 months old now, goes out every Friday. And one episode is me, one episode is with a guest. And it's about those moments in our lives where we come to our senses. And it might be because something suddenly changed in our lives, or we got to kick up the proverbial butt that made us stop and go, do you know what? I'm going to do things differently. And some of the stories that people have shared on there have been mind blowing as to how much of a difference. One that came out a few weeks ago was a gentleman who at one point was the main heroin dealer in West Yorkshire,
Wow.
and how he has changed his life and now goes into prisons and schools to help people understand the impact of certain gangs. And and one of the phrases that I love sharing, because I think it was so beautifully put by him, which is, look, I've done really bad stuff, Jules, really bad stuff, but I'm not a bad person. And I just thought that was really powerful. So I get to have magical conversations like that. And I'm hoping that you're going to come on and be a guest as well.
I will be there. Try and keep me away. But that's amazing. What a great idea for a show. And I definitely want definitely going and taking a listen to that myself, and another book idea as well. Unfortunately, if I tried publishing my journals, I think they would be on a very different category. Probably not under self-help, but let's save that for another conversation. But Jules, thank you so much for coming in. This has been a wonderful conversation. I can't wait to put it out. I hope you'll come back at some time
I'd love
on
to.
the coaching clinic, maybe with Angie as well, and we'll
Yeah.
have another chat. That would be great.
Love to. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Jules.
Do you have a question for the coaching clinic?
Reach out on LinkedIn to connect with Angie and John.
Leave us a voicemail or video message and we will feature you on the show.
You can also leave up to 90-second voicemail for free on www.speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast.
We'd love to hear from you.
See you next time.
Bye for now.